Let's look back and think about what a radian really is. A radian, you find, if you take the radius of the circle, so the distance from the center of the circle to the outside of the circle itself, and then you can curve that radius and wrap that length around the outside of the circle. So a single radian, the length of this arc of a single radian, where this is a radian, is exactly equal to the radius of a circle. Now, if I were to wrap the radius around the circle, how many ever more times? So here's a radius, here's a radius. It would take a little bit more than 3 times to go halfway across the circle. And it would take a little bit more than 6 times to go all the way around the circle. In fact, it takes pi of these to get halfway around the circle and 2 pi of these to get all the way around the circle. So that's why there are 2 pi radians in a circle. If you think about the circumference of the circle, when we measure the length around the outside of the circle, the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times the radius, because it's pi times the diameter, but the diameter is 2 times the radius. Well, circumference is just a measure of arc length, only it's the length around the entire circle. So the arc length around the entire circle is equal to, well, 2 pi is actually the angle measure in radians around the entire circle. You know, of this whole 360 degrees is the same thing as 2 pi radians, so it's an angle measure, times the radius of the circle. This is the formula we're going to use. The arc length is equal to the angle measure of the central angle that subtends that arc, means is opposite to the arc, times the radius of the circle. So arc length equals radians times the radius of the circle. So when they give this to me, they say the arc length is 4 pi equals the radius is 5. What is the radian measure of the angle? I set up this equation, I divide both sides by 5, and theta is the measure of the angle, and it's 4 pi over 5 is reduced radians. And again, often we don't actually write the word radians as a label. So they tell me the radius is 3 inches, and theta, the angle measure, is 3 pi over 5 radians, and it wants me to find the length of the arc that this angle subtends, which means again is opposite to. So S equals r times theta, or theta times r, sorry. So 3 times 3 pi over 5. So the length of the arc is equal to 9 pi over 5, and the length of an arc is measured in inches or centimeters, and they did put units in here, so inches. So S, the length of the arc, is equal to r, the radius of the circle, times theta, which is the measure of the central angle that subtends, is opposite to, the arc we're talking about.